Hey, welcome back to Relax Radio with me, Nick, giving you guys company, keeping you guys entertained all the way until 5 p.m. We're having a lot of things that we were discussing about, and one of the things, like I was talking about, is right now with all this, the whole coronavirus situation going down, and the whole restrictions being lifted, and things are getting back to normal. When can you go on a holiday abroad or in the UK? That is the kind of question that we should be asking ourselves. And the traffic light system ranking countries by the coronavirus risk they pose will be introduced as international travel resumes. So, how does the travel system work, and what could it cost its travelers? Well, at the moment, foreign holidays are banned. So, yeah, returning travelers have to quarantine on arrival. However, the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said people in England can now start thinking about booking foreign trips again. So yeah, the earliest possible date for foreign travel has previously been given as the 17th of May. But Mr. Shapps said that they did not confirm this, this would be the case. They said, hey, you might be able to go even earlier. So yeah, the first ministers of Scotland and Wales have argued that it is too early for foreign holidays. And details of where countries will be placed in the new traffic light system are not expected until early May. So yeah, Mr. Shapps says, as I quote, you'll want to check what the situation is in 2 or 3 weeks. And when that list, the green, amber, red is produced, then we get to decide what is going on. So yeah, there's 3 weeks time before we can finally decide whether we can go travel and which are the countries that will be falling on those lists. So essentially, it's going to be a red list, a amber list, and a green list. So that is what is the kind of traffic system that is going on. It's essentially like a traffic light. So, it's no brainer right there. But, how will this traffic light system work? Well, for England, the destination countries will be in one of 3 categories. So the number one is going to be green lit. So passengers will not need to, quarantine on return, but must take a pre-departure test as well as a PCR test on return to the UK. And for those, so essentially, if you go to a country that is, green lit, you can essentially go in there. You don't need to be quarantined, but you'll have to take a PCR test before you return to the UK. So that's all about there. And yeah, for the amber test, so the amber lit countries, travelers will need to quarantine for 10 days, as well as taking a pre-departure test and 2 PCR tests. That is, for the countries that are, amber lit countries, the countries that are somewhat not 100% safe as of yet. And then there is the red lit zones, which is, passengers will have to pay for a 10-day stay in a managed quarantine hotel, as well as a pre-departure and 2 PCR tests. So about 40 countries right now are on the current red list. So basically, essentially, this will all be based on the vaccinations, on the infection rates, how fast, how many infections per day are they getting, and are they getting vaccinated, and how common are the COVID variants of concern are essentially in that country. Then the testing and sequencing capacity. So there will be a green watch list to give people notice if a country is about to move to amber or to red. So that's good news right there. You're always going to be up to date. You're always going to be prepared. So when a country is going to be from green, it's going to turn to amber or red. So when a country is going to get unsafe, it's a great initiative right there. So essentially, Mr. Sapp said, that the use of these PCR tests and those needing to be sent to a lab enable these scientists, all right, to detect potential variants of concern. And he said the tests were too expensive, and the government wants these costs to come down, because like I said earlier, most of these COVID tests, these PCR tests, are going to be expensive. So a lot of these people there's a lot of people who cannot afford this. That's also an issue that they have to tackle right now, and that is something that needs to be talked about, especially right now. And consumer groups, which estimate that at least each PCR test, which is about one of the tests needed, could cost about £120 per person. That is essentially a lot of money right there. And, this is going to make a lot of these holidays unaffordable for a lot of people. A lot of people are going to have troubles, especially when it comes to traveling, because of the PCR tests. £120. That is a lot of money. So it's just going to be unaffordable for a bunch and a lot of people in the countries. And members of the travel industries have said that this is going to be as well. Like I said, it's going to be difficult for a lot of people. So the EasyJet chief executive said he did not understand why consumers could not take lateral flow tests, which are cheaper and quicker for travel to green countries. I mean, cheaper, quicker, but is it more effective? That is the real question. These tests, although these lateral tests are quick and cheap, but it's not as effective as a whole PCR test. We got to be real right there. I mean, they can talk all they want. It's gonna be. It sounds easy to travel and be like, hey, we just take this quick test and we're done. But then what happens when what if you in a normal PCR test you test positive, but then in these lateral flow, what if you miss and you don't test positive? There's the issue like that. There's gonna be concerns, especially when it comes to that. So, what is this $5,000 holiday fine? £5,000 rather holiday fine. Well, the current penalty in England is a £5,000 fine for traveling outside the UK without a reasonable excuse. So anyone who who's going to be doing this, who's going to be traveling, has to fill in a declaration to travel form stating a valid reason for leaving the country. So these essentially include travel. This essentially includes work, education, or receiving medical treatment, providing care for like a vulnerable person. Well, people can travel in order to buy or even sell property. So you have to have a valid reason to travel the country. Otherwise, you cannot be traveling the country. So the ban does not apply to journeys to or from the Channel Islands, Isles of Man, and the Republic of Ireland, as long as passengers do not travel onwards. So where can you go on a holiday in the UK? Well, in Wales. People are now, free to travel wherever they want within the country's borders. All right. So self-contained holiday accommodation, including hotels with ensuite facilities and room service, can open to people from the same household or support bubble. So essentially, you can travel within your nation and in your own support bubble as long as it's self-contained. So it's essentially the whole point of the self-containment is not to spread the disease any further, essentially reducing the risk of transmission. So domestic holidays can restart though in England on the 12th of April, which is today. Hopefully today you can start traveling domestically, at which point though, two people will also be able to cross the border to and from Wales, but not to Scotland. You can go inside, you can go to Wales, you can go to and from Wales, but you cannot go to Scotland. So people will be able to stay away from home with other members of their household or bubble in self-contained accommodation, such as a holiday cottage. So if you got a holiday cottage or a small villa, hey, you can always, hit it up with your friends. And the other thing is, the four conditions for lockdown easing, like we were talking about, is the vaccine program continues to go as planned. The plan is, the roadmap, like Boris Johnson said, he's sticking with that plan. He's adamant that this is going to happen. And he's essentially saying, hey, okay, this is what's going to happen. By the time July 21st hit, every adult in the UK is going to be vaccinated. So the other thing is evidence, that shows vaccines are reducing the deaths and numbers requiring hospital treatment. So this is essentially the link. What they're trying to say is that the link, between this and the vaccine is breaking that link, reducing the amount of, transmissibility and a lot of people being admitted in the hospital or being treated. So that's one thing. And the other one is infection rates do not risk surge in hospital admissions. So that's the other thing. What if, a sudden burst of infection rate increases? Will it burden the hospital admissions? Will the workforce, will the health force, health work staff members, will they be overburdened with these amount of patients? So that's something else that, that they are addressing. And this is just one of the reasons for the lockdown easing, just one of the things. And the other fourth one is new variants do not change the risk of lifting restrictions. That's the other thing that, that is happening. Essentially, there's going to be variants, but will it be as transmissible? Will these vaccines actually be effective against this? That's the kind of questions, that is bothering people's minds. And that is, it must be running through your mind. Will these be effective? If this is going to happen, if these four, requirements are met for conditions are met, lockdown easing will continue. So hotels and B&Bs are set to open for holidaymakers in England on the 17th of May, and that is the earliest date so far. But no more than 6 people or 2 households will be able to stay together indoors. So yeah, the earliest that all these restrictions on mixing could be lifted is the 21st of June. So essentially, when it comes to complete, mixing of households and people, it's going to be 21st of June. That's what they're saying. So in Scotland, the stay-at-home rule ended on the 2nd of April, but people are still being asked to stay local. So they're essentially being asked to stay in the nation for now until everything gets sorted. And they say travel within mainland Scotland will be allowed from the 26th of April, when tourist accommodations can also reopen with restrictions in place. So yeah, First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said she hoped travel between Scotland and the rest of the UK would resume around that time. So that is just, something that she's also looking forward to. And she's talking about, when it comes to, travel, end of the day travel is also, it's another way of income. And that's something also that a lot of these travel industries are also looking forward to, the reopening of the country. So Northern Ireland has not yet announced, their new UK travel rules. And, that's just one of those nations, that have not yet confirmed when they'll allow these new travel rules. Not yet. They've not announced it as of yet officially. So, hold tight for that. We maybe get some more updates on that. But, what are your rights if you book a holiday right now? That is the question that you could be asking. And, well, most accommodations and these holiday, the people who give you holidays and provide your holidays have these flexible booking policies. So these should be laid out in their terms and conditions. So in case you guys are planning to make a travel, in case you guys want to go out, well, make sure you read the terms and conditions. So the UK watchdog, the Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA, suggests you should usually get your money back if coronavirus restrictions scupper your holiday plans. So in case there's a resurgence of this coronavirus, if it's gonna be, if it's gonna raise another scenario like there, hey, you're always entitled to get your money back because of this. And it also says, that this would be the case if a business cancels your booking or can't provide you the service due to lockdown laws, or you can't go on a book holiday because the rules would make it illegal. So yeah, the CMA says you should receive a full refund. I say it again, it's a full refund under most of these circumstances. So if you get in a situation like this, where because of the pandemic, you can't go to a holiday, or you can't go to your booking, or, traveling would make it illegal, you will usually get a full refund. So if you decide, to cancel a holiday due to a government guidance, the CMA suggests you should not face, disproportionate, basically these high charges. These should only cover the amount of money the business can expect to lose. So vouchers or postponements can be offered, but you are not obliged to accept these instead of a cash refund. So yeah, a few insurance policies also will cover if you miss a holiday because you've been diagnosed with coronavirus, or because you are required to self-isolate as long as you already held the policy. So yeah, if the holiday provider refuses to pay, or he completely goes bankrupt or bust, and you paid by credit card, you can claim from your card company for services not rendered under Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Card Act. So you must spend between £100 and £30,000 to be eligible. So if you're paid on a debit card, well, you may be able to secure a refund under the chargeback scheme. So yeah, that is just some of the ways, in an event, if you want to travel, if you want to go out of the country, and in case something goes up, these are just some of the backup plans that you could think about and you could actually use. So make sure you guys, remember all of that. But with that, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we'll be right back with some more conversation. And checking your time right now, it is 2:48. Good afternoon.